My guest today grew up in church, but as he got older, he started to feel like the story of Jesus was just a fairy tale. But was it? Gage, WOYEN, welcome.
Hey.
So tell me, what was it about your faith that you grew up in that just started feeling totally unbelievable?
Well, Cheryl, the thing is, I grew up in church, right? And since a very young age, I was involved in Sunday school, all those things. So what I tell people is growing up in the church can either lead you one way or the other, where you can be super involved in the church, or you can go the way that I went. And as soon as I hit 12, 13, I got involved with soccer. And that completely uprooted me and took me away from the church very, very fast. And unfortunately, at that pivotal age in my life, Jesus, it wasn't my own. Being young, it was, oh, I looked up to God, the stories were amazing, but as soon as I hit that age of like me trying to find my identity, I put it in other things. And soon enough, Jesus just became a story to me.
That you started hanging out with the wrong crowd. So tell me about that season in your life. You were partying a lot.
Yeah. So from about 12 all the way up till probably 18, Jesus was nowhere in my life. Even though he was, he's working his ways in me. But I grew up with the soccer crowd. None of them were Christians. So started with the language. I used to think, like I was really, really like closed off before. Like I used to think swear words were like so bad, but slowly being around those types of people, swear words became so normal to me. So it started with that. And then like that crowd that I was with, they started bringing me out to drinking at probably age 14, 15. And that just played a huge role in how I grew up.
And then you got involved with drugs and you ended up being expelled from school, and your parents must have been so upset. So what happened?
So grade 10, grade 10 was like that was like the big switch point in my life. Like I was still heavily involved with soccer. I was doing really good, but that's when I decided to throw soccer away and really dive into like the partying, and like girls were a huge thing for me, because before grade 10, girls weren't really an issue. I liked playing video games and stuff, but grade 10 hit and I started to become more popular, and that just hit me super hard. Like this popularity started to like take over my mind, and then me getting into the party scene, it just fell apart super, super fast. And by the time grade 11 hit, I was starting to do drugs, drinking every weekend, and by the time second semester hit, I was kicked right out of school.
So you ended up going to a different school for troubled kids?
Yeah. So grade 11, second semester, I got expelled from every school in the district. Like no school would let me into their school.
Wow.
So I got into an outreach program, and thankfully like the teacher there just really pushed me, and I was able to, at the end of that semester, get back into regular school for grade 12.
And your parents, were they pulling their hair out at this point?
Yeah, you could say that for the least, definitely. It was, the disappointment really hit me hard. Like your parents getting mad at you and your parents getting disappointed at you is completely different. Them getting mad at you is almost like you can handle it because then it's just a yelling match. But with them sitting there disappointed, it's a whole nother story.
But that still didn't change you. And at 19, you started feeling God tugging at your heart. So what was happening inside of you?
So, Cheryl, what was happening inside of me was, I thought one morning, like, where am I going with my life? I'm glad I had that realization, and it was definitely God calling me. I could never dive into that next level where you hear some people do. It's because I accepted Jesus into my life at like a young age, right? So not until now I look back and it's like, wow, Jesus really did have my back, because I never got into that much trouble. Like I did, but not that over the edge type of trouble, right? So I could feel in my heart that Jesus wanted me to make a difference, but I didn't think it was Jesus wanting me to make that difference. I thought it was just like me wanting to help the world, but it wasn't until I woke up one morning and I felt in my heart like God calling me. And it was a morning after drugs and alcohol. I was in this super, super dark place when I woke up that morning, and God called me out of this dark place.
It's so good to see somebody your age talk about this. And they say that in the US, for example, which I think is very similar to us, there's double the number of atheists in your generation compared to the adult population.
Wow.
So a lot of people your age are just leaving faith or not interested. Do you have hope for your generation?
Oh yeah, I got hope. Jesus is calling. Even though those atheists, they know deep down that there's a God, and Jesus is pulling them out of that situation just like how I was. And I know for a fact right now, some of my friends, they're world changers. I see it in our church. I see young people that are just on fire for God, and they're going to make an impact.
Just last question. For somebody watching this interview who says, that's great for you, Gage, but I just can't get there. I don't know if God is real. I don't know how to get out of the spiral that I'm in. What would you say to them?
What would I say to them? Wow. It's lordship, downright lordship. Like, you can't leave any strings attached when it comes to Jesus Christ. Like, I was a half and half Christian for a long time in my life, and it wasn't until that decision of, God, you have it all, I'm going to give it my all, that's when he took me. And you got to come to the end yourself.
And you did.
Yeah, you got to be sick and tired.
Love your story. Love how Jesus just shines out of you. You can see the joy and the peace and the love in your eyes. Thank you so much for coming to share your story.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
And if you're watching this and you feel like there's no hope for you, you feel like there's no hope for someone that you love in your life, you got to know that when you pray for somebody, God goes after them. If you cry out to God, he'll come after you, but in a good way, not in a bad way. He will meet you right where you're at. If you want to change your life, if you want to have hope, call the number on your screen right now. We would love, love, love to pray with you and start a new journey just like Gage did. We'll be right back.